Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling something I think literally everyone watching has agonized over at least once. It's one of those incredibly uncomfortable, guilt-inducing, just universally awkward situations. What do you actually do when a friend or a family member asks you for money? Now, it feels like a very modern financial dilemma, right? But to solve it, we're actually going to look back thousands of years. We'll be analyzing some ancient Socratic wisdom that provides this brilliant step-by-step framework for protecting both your hard-earned wealth and your most cherished relationships.
It really hits close to home, doesn't it? Why is it that helping a buddy out with cash almost always blows up the friendship? We all know that sinking feeling in the pit of our stomach when a loved one asks for financial help. Our natural instinct is, of course, to give. We feel immense guilt if we even entertain the idea of saying no. But the harsh reality, and what we're really going to explore today, is that giving into that guilt almost always backfires completely. Usually end up with less money and, honestly, one less friend. Okay, let's just dive right into this by traveling back to the streets of ancient Greece. Think of this as a cautionary tale. It's the tragic story of a common merchant named Lucius. Now, for years, Lucius worked day and night running his grain business, right? He carefully saved a little bit of his earnings every single month, just preparing for hard times. Then, one day, a distant cousin shows up, practically begging for help, claiming his crops were completely ruined by a flood. Well, Lucius's heart softened. Within hours, literally hours, he handed over his entire life savings. But then months passed, then years. The cousin completely vanished, having basically blown the money on a life of luxury. And because of that one emotional decision, Lucius's own family starved. His kids couldn't even go to school. And his relationship with that cousin? Completely destroyed. And this tragic outcome brings us directly to a core lesson from Socrates. He taught that yes, you absolutely must gather money for difficult times, but you have to avoid the emotional habits that destroy it. Socrates stated it pretty simply: protecting wealth is protecting your family. I really want you to absorb that for a second, because it instantly relieves the guilt we all feel about setting financial boundaries. Saying no to a bad loan isn't about you being greedy. It's fundamentally about fulfilling your duty to protect your family's future.
It's crazy how brilliantly this ancient story mirrors what's happening right now. Lucius's tragedy is literally the exact same thing as those modern WhatsApp texts we all get. You know the ones, "Hey brother, huge emergency, can you lend me some cash real quick?" We usually cave because saying no just feels wrong. But lending actually weakens our modern relationships. It doesn't strengthen them at all. It's a total lose-lose dynamic. If the money doesn't come back, the arguments start. And if you actually dare to ask for your own money back, well, suddenly you're the villain.
So how do we actually escape this trap? Today we're going to cover 5 key Socratic rules. Number 1, the shield of time. 2, the arrow of questions. 3, the law of collateral. 4, the gift strategy. And finally, protecting wealth and family.
All right, rule 1, the shield of time. Buy yourself 24 hours.
The absolute first method to apply when someone hits you up for money, and listen, this applies no matter how massive of an emergency they claim it is to never ever say yes or no immediately. Actually, scratch that. Don't say anything definitive at all. Instead, use time as a shield. Just smile and say, "Oh man, my money is completely tied up in different accounts right now. Let me check and get back to you tomorrow." Taking exactly 24 hours to respond is an incredibly strategic move. It gives you a crucial breathing period to consult your family and think rationally instead of emotionally. Plus, it acts as a stress test for the true urgency of the request. It forces a pause that helps you figure out what's really going on. You can really see the stark contrast here between the foolishness of acting fast and the absolute wisdom of delay. In ancient times, there's a story of a hasty king who was approached by a spy demanding immediate gold coins for a secret mission. The king just handed them over instantly, only to realize later that the spy actually belonged to the enemy. Socrates says, take time, think, and then decide. Today, you can just use a modern tactic like, the bank server's down, let's check tomorrow. If their need is totally fake, they're not going to wait around. They'll just move on to easier prey. But if it's a true emergency, they'll wait. To show you just how well this works, the source material shares this amazing anecdote. A guy was approached by his cousin asking for $20,000. Using the shield of time, the guy asked for a day to figure it out. Well, the very next day, the cousin texts back, "Never mind, I got it from someone else." It later came out that the cousin literally just wanted the cash to blow on a big party, not an emergency at all. Patience genuinely prevents you from becoming an easy target.
Moving right along to Rule 2, the arrow of questions. Ask for a solid plan.
So let's say they return the next day. Your immediate instinct might be to start justifying why you can't lend them the money, right? Like making up excuses about your own bills or expenses. Don't do that. Instead, shift the focus entirely back onto them. Tell them you really want to help, but you need the money back quickly for your own obligations. Then simply ask for a concrete repayment plan. Just say, where exactly will this money come from and how will you return it? This brings us to a really powerful Socratic metaphor. Questions are the arrows that expose lies. By demanding a concrete repayment plan, you strip away any hidden bad intentions. Back in Socrates' time, there was this merchant notorious for constantly borrowing money. When Socrates taught his disciples to simply ask this guy exactly how he'd repay them, the merchant would only give these vague, evasive answers, which totally saved the disciples from making bad loans.
You can literally apply this arrow of questions today. If someone says, "Hey, I will pay you from my next salary," okay, that is a measurable, acceptable plan. But if their answer is vague, if they hit you with the classic, "Come on, just trust me, don't worry about it," that is a massive red flag. You've got to be extremely cautious here. Your response should just be, "Look, I do trust you, but our relationship is way above money. If this money isn't returned, it's going to ruin our relationship, and I absolutely do not want that." Which leads us to Rule 3, the law of collateral. Demand a guarantee.
So what if they pass your questions, but they still insist on the loan? Well, then you have to treat the transaction with complete legal seriousness. You look at them and say, "I'll give you the money, but there are rules. I need a small guarantee in return." Why be so strict about it? Because of this pretty stark warning from Socrates. Wealth without collateral is like water and sand. It just disappears. It vanishes. Understanding this makes asking for a guarantee a totally non-negotiable boundary. It literally proves their commitment to paying you back.
And we see this practice across all of history. In ancient times, people secured loans with gold rings or land papers. There's this great story of a disciple of Socrates who was about to lend to someone just on trust. But Socrates intervened and said trust is good, but proof is better. The disciple asked for security, and the borrower instantly ran away. The modern equivalent of this is just demanding a post-dated check. Now look, if the borrower gets angry and accuses you of doubting them, just stay calm. Simply state that it's just standard security. A person with clean intentions will gladly provide it, for sure. A person with bad intentions, they'll walk away.
Now for Rule 4, the gift strategy. Give, don't lend.
But wait, what happens when the emergency is undeniably real, like a terrible sickness or maybe a child's school fees? This is where we use a brilliant, totally counterintuitive rule reserved only for genuine crises. Give, don't lend. Let me walk you through exactly how this works. Step 1, acknowledge their genuine need. Step 2, clearly state that you cannot provide the full amount they're asking for. Step 3, offer a smaller portion of the money as a non-repayable gift. You just say, "Listen, I can't give you the full amount, but I can give you this smaller amount to help out, and you do not need to return it."
This strategy is absolute genius because it protects the vast bulk of your savings while actually increasing the respect they have for you. Plus, because it's a gift, they aren't going to keep coming back with larger and larger demands.
This gift strategy has historically turned potential enemies into deeply grateful friends. Socrates pointed out that small charities build bonds. In ancient times, a poor farmer went to a king asking for help. The king couldn't solve his entire problem, but he gave a small amount of help, and that farmer remained forever grateful. Fast forward to today. The source text shares a story of a modern colleague whose friend asked for money. The colleague gifted a smaller amount instead of lending the whole massive sum. The result? They successfully avoided all that bitter resentment of unpaid loans, and their friendship actually grew stronger. It's a real win-win.
And that brings us to our final section, protecting wealth and family. The conclusion.
Implementing these Socratic boundaries might feel a little uncomfortable at first. You might worry about coming across as rigid, but you really have to remind yourself that applying these rules is an act of deep family protection, not an act of selfishness. So the crucial point I want you to take away today is this mental checklist. First, use the shield of time. Wait 24 hours before making any decision. Second, shoot the arrow of questions. Demand a concrete repayment plan. Third, apply the law of collateral. Ask for a post-dated check as security. And finally, for genuine, undeniably real emergencies, use the gift strategy. Give a smaller amount as a gift instead of lending a huge sum.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely vital question to ask ourselves. Will you continue letting guilt drain your family's financial future and ruin your relationships? Or will you use this ancient Socratic wisdom to firmly protect them both? The choice is entirely yours. Keep learning, keep thinking, and keep protecting what matters most. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.